In the words of MC Storm, it's raining, just accept it. I remembered something, and that was that my first stereo was £11. It was a turntable, it had a separate turntable, it had a cassette deck, and I took the front off and you could adjust the speed on it. And there were 2 speakers and an amp. And this amp had the fuse blown in it. So out of my £20 pocket money for the term, £11 was taken out for this stereo, which is pretty good. So it's a very effective thing. In 2012, so that was probably 1991, in 2012 I went to go and get a master. This is how my mastering thing started. And I found a couple of things. But one problem was that I had an EP I wanted a serious job done on, and the mastering cost was £20 a track, or £25 a track. So I started to reverse engineer other people's masters, and I really cracked that in 2014. But sometimes people say your mastering is too cheap. If you charge £11, people will say this is going to be a rubbish result. You charge more like 20. But the whole point of charging £11 is for me. It's for me mastering my EP. And in my mastering journey, I later found there's a house guy came to me. He's a master, a friend of Gavin. And he said, here's my track. I quickly did his master, sent it back to him. He went to check it on his £8,000 pair of speakers. He said, oh, this is really, really good. And then another master happened with him, and he showed me a master someone else has done. And he said, can you tell me what the difference is? And literally the difference between what he had sent in and the final result was an amount of dB. There was no EQ, there was nothing. I said, if you got a compressor, a limiter, and put it on your original track, this is what you'd end up with. And sure enough, this was a guy who paid £20 or £25 too. So I'd like to point out that the amount of money you pay for a master does not necessarily mean there is a difference in the quality of the sound. And that house guy then went and set up his own studio mastering for people because he realised what the scam was of these people sitting there with 20 and 25 quid masters. And I'd rather be working for most of or all of the day doing the important job of EQing, knowing the difference between peak and mean power, and the difference between the bass and the treble and the octaves in between, and balancing those octaves and other things which I can't reveal, and that's why I'm better than them, and charging £11, being busy, rather than sitting there at £25 waiting for my next victim. So that's my history of money, really. And I've always been in a situation where I'm working, whether it's in music or when I was younger, working at a pub kitchen, washing up to get money for records. And I think there's something very satisfying about it. And it's not sort of saying, well, now I can sort of cash in. One of my early records I bought actually was a Rennie Pilgrim record, Resistor, which was actually the first really of the CCR records. And he said, you should charge more for this. And I'm like, well, I don't actually need to, because if I went into a normal job, I'd be on minimum wage. This is better than minimum wage, and I'm doing what I like. So that's where we are with mastering.